So first of all, bags and baggages. Depending on the airline and depending on the sector, you have various baggage limits and baggage rules. For example, in general for Europe, you're allowed only 20 kilograms plus a hand baggage. That's pretty less for a stay of 3 months. For USA and Canada, you're allowed 2 bags of 23 kilograms each and a handbag. So that's 46 kilograms in a handbag. Usually that handbag can be 2, that is a handbag and a laptop bag. Sorry, so for USA and Canada, you'll have 23 plus 23 plus a handbag and a laptop bag. For Europe, you'll have 20 plus a handbag and a laptop bag. Still, what I'm telling you is a general guideline. Make sure you read up your airline rules and so on. For example, the year I went to Germany, Air India had a special plan for students where they offered 30 kilograms plus handbag for the journey. So this way you can get various deals and so on. But in general, assume that it's 23 times 2 or 20. Now how do you choose your bags? When you go to Canada or the US, you have no choice. You need 2 bags, obviously, 2 fairly voluminous bags. What you'll suggest is that don't take those bulky suitcases because they have a lot of self-weight and you want every single kilogram for your own use and not for the bag. So those VIP style bags, right, which the kind of bags we use every day for normal domestic travel also, but slightly bigger ones would be good. And make sure they have trolleys or some other way because it's very difficult to lift a 23 kilogram bag, especially when you're alone and when you have 2 of them. So make sure they're bags with trolleys, make sure that they're not very heavy themselves, make sure that they're fairly sturdy because baggage is very badly mishandled in flights and during flights at the airport and so on. And you don't want all your stuff all over the place when you're going there. So make sure your bags are very sturdy. It might be a good idea to invest in a bag if you haven't got such a bag already. Don't take makeshift luggage. कि वो एक बैग में रस्सी लगा के कुछ कर दिया और ऐसा कर दिया. That might lead you into trouble. So usually bags are not very expensive. You can get VIP bags for about 1,500 to 2,000 bucks, but they'll be worth the investment because it's important. So that's the big ones. Usually, okay, I'll come when I tell you about packing. So that's the bag case. Now in case of Europe, you're allowed 20 kilograms, but it might still make sense to have 2 bags instead of 1. So maybe 10 kilograms each, but smaller bags. The advantage of course is that you don't want all your eggs in one basket. So if your luggage gets mishandled, or it gets lost or something, or it gets delayed, you want something with you while you are in a foreign land. And hence make sure that you try to take 2 bags instead of 1 bag, even if you have only 20 kilograms. For Japan, I think it's 23 times 2. So it should not be a problem. We'll start with clothes first of all. I assume that most of you are going to either Europe, Japan or USA or Canada, which means these are fairly temperate places. So the climate will be very pleasant and towards cool. It will be cooler than, let's say, Bothale winters. And it might actually be very cold if you're going on the north side of, say, Germany or England. So make sure you carry warm clothing. Make sure you carry warm thermal innerwear. As far as trousers and jeans and other stuff goes, usually clothes do not get dirty abroad for 2 reasons. So either in India they get dirty from outside because of dirt or from inside because of sweat. So because it's cold, you won't sweat as much and it's generally clean, there's no dirt or dust. So clothes don't get dirty. I know people have not washed their jeans at all during the 3-month stay. The moral of the story is that do not take too many clothes, you won't need them. And clothes are heavy. So when you start packing, you'll realize, especially for Europe people, that every single gram counts when you want to make sure you're within 20 kilograms. And that's because we don't realize, but everything is heavy. For example, a standard shirt might be at 150 to 200 grams. Jeans usually 250 to 300 grams. So we don't usually realize this, but when you start packing and then you put it on the weighing machine and it's 25 kgs, then you realize. So don't take too many clothes. 5 to 6 pairs of jeans or trousers are more than sufficient. Shirts, as I said, 10 to 12 is an upper limit. You usually not need more than 4 or 5 pairs if you want to be, but if you generally want to have a variety of clothing, then you can still take more, but as far as the requirement goes, you probably not need more than 4 or 5 pairs. So in general, do not waste a lot of weight on clothes. You probably do not need to carry formal wear, but if you have the kind of weight, then you can probably think of taking 1 pair. And usually trousers are lighter than jeans, so it won't be that big a weight. I'm sorry, I'm not very qualified for female packing, but I think the gist remains more or less the same. Again, footwear, you'll definitely need shoes, especially because it's going to be cold. Apart from that, decide what you want. Usually indoors are very clean, so just 1 additional footwear is okay. Like in India, you always need chappal or something else because places are dirty, but usually that's not the case in most places. So as long as you have 1 pair of shoes for outdoor wear, just take 1, whatever you want, slippers, sandals, or whatever you wish, and that should be enough. So don't waste a lot of weight on footwear again. Be careful with the woolens. So especially if you're going to Northern Europe, or Northern Japan, or Northern Canada, and so on, make sure you carry thermal wear. Make sure you carry some sweaters or wind cheaters or jackets or so on. And then be prepared for the cold because it is usually much colder than you would expect even in summers. It might even snow in some places. Also, if it's very cold, carry gloves, caps, any other kind of woolen wear because you'll probably need that too. So this depends on where you're going to. Mostly like the southern part of America or even some parts of Canada, etc. You might not need woolens. You might not need caps and gloves and so on. But let's say in Japan, you might need them. In Northern Canada, you might need them. And in Northern Germany also, you might need them. So the rule is this. When you're packing, don't try to take less than the weight limit because every single thing you're not taking which you need, you'll have to buy there and you'll have to pay much more for it. So and that applies to everything. So the second-hand market might not be as developed as you might expect it in India. So because of that, there might be a problem. And then the problem is that when you go there, you're already in a foreign land and you're probably finding it difficult to orient yourself. And the last thing you want to do is to try to look for places which will let you borrow woolens, right? So as I said, take essentials with you. If it's a luxury thing and you don't have weight or space, ditch it. Yeah, traditional wear again, this is optional. If you want, you can carry it. Whatever you want. So sometimes departments or universities have international days, traditional days or so on, or some traditional function or something. And if you want to wear something ethnic or traditional, you can carry maybe 1 or 2 pieces for that. Yeah, for women, people outside might not be very used to saris. If you're planning to take saris along, you might get more stares than usual. So make sure that, you can take it as an ethnic thing, but for daily wear, try to avoid in places where you don't have Indians already. So if you go to, for example, any major city of Canada or USA, it should not be a problem. But most places in Europe do not have a lot of Indians, and so it might be a bit unusual for them. So it's not unsafe, it's just that it's a bit weird from their point of view. Electronics. As I said again, everything is available everywhere, much more expensive. Make sure you carry your laptop, chargers, the CD of your OSS and so on, and then recovery disks. Maybe carry a CD with a Linux version for recovery or something. Make sure you carry all your basic software which you need. You'll not be able to get pirated versions there. Take headphones and mic, might be useful, especially if you want to talk online or Skype. Mobile phones. So most phones nowadays work on all GSM frequencies. But if you have any of those old indestructible phones, then they might not work in places where the frequencies don't match. So you have 850, 900, 1800, 1900. So these are the 4 GSM frequencies. You've heard tri-band, quad-band, right? So tri-band and quad-band will mostly work everywhere. If you have that single 850, 900 wala, then make sure that the country you're going to has the same frequency, otherwise you won't be able to use it. I guess most people who have bought their phones in the past 3-4 years should not have to worry about this. Also, take a small LAN cable along. Mostly your accommodation might provide you one. But for example, where I went in Canada, they were charging $10 for it. Make sure you carry all the software and cables. Camera cable, computer cable, USB disk. Also carry a USB disk, a flash drive, might be helpful for your lab work or even for keeping a copy of your photograph and stuff. Across the continent, across the globe, you'll have very different socket sizes and socket types. And if you do not have the correct converter, you'll be rendered powerless, and it will be expensive to buy one there. So what I suggest is that you do the homework, make sure you buy the appropriate converter. In India, you usually get very cheap ones, maybe 150 bucks, when you get a very good multi-country converter. You can do anything to anything: Singapore, USA, UK, India, Europe, and so on. Wikipedia has a page with all the countries and their corresponding plug types. So just look at it before you go. Yeah, SIM cards. So there are many ways you can have a connection. One way is that you carry some kind of a card from India. It's called, there are many cards, matrix card and so on. Another way is to traditionally go and buy a SIM there. Now, depending on the country, it might be difficult. Some countries will not probably issue you SIMs without, if you're not a long-time resident or without address proof and so on. In Germany, I could buy a SIM without any problem. What about France? You could. So I think in Europe, it's not an issue. Phone calls are very expensive in general. So in general, it's advisable that you buy a card which gives you cheaper calling, cheaper domestic calling. Because you can do international calling by Skype or VoIP and so on. But you need to make more frequent local calls often. Also, you can try something called VoIP. Voice over IP. What you do is, you pay online using credit card, and then you install a software. It's like Skype, except you can make phone calls to phone numbers. And that's usually very useful, and the call rates are very low. So India, you can call 70 paise a minute, which is irrespective of where you are in the world. And so, I suggest that irrespective of what you take, you buy a VoIP connection also, because it's always very useful and not very expensive. The minimum recharge amount has to be 15 euros, which is about 800 bucks. Not very expensive, and it lasts a lot unless you talk very, very often. For example, I bought one when I was in Canada, and I still have half of the 15 euros left. I still have 7 euros left. So if you just want to use it once in a while, or irrespective of how much you want to use it, it's always very economical.